Now, my guy who rejects intelligent design, he says, where intelligent design theorists throw up their hands and declare defeat for evolution. However, yay, these researchers decided to do the hard scientific work of analyzing the components of the cycle and seeing if any of them might have been selected for other biochemical tests. They're just looking. They're not experimenting. What they found should be a lesson to anyone who asserts that evolution can only act by direct selection for a final function. In fact, nearly all the proteins of the complex cycle can serve different biochemical purposes within the cell, making it possible to explain in detail how they evolved. No, it doesn't. A Ford has similar components to a Toyota, or whatever, even to an airplane. Some airplanes, small. But so what? Doesn't mean one evolved to other. Similarity does not prove that they evolved one into the other. Although you stipulate that a number of the components of the Krebs cycle have been observed to participate in different biochemical processes and purposes within a cell or other cells, this does not make it possible for you to explain in detail how they evolved. See something similar over there? There, okay. There has to be more information which indicates the progression of that evolution stage by stage, failure by failure, success by success over many years. Lots of details. Of course, they throw their hands up, the evolution, because they weren't there, which most likely required to be very, very old, millions and billions of years old. You can't say what could have been or what should have been because you look at something that's similar from one life form to another. For evolution by its own self-description is not straightforward progress, but a series of virtually endless failures, interspersed with successes here and there until a huge amount of trials, uncountable years go by, and then you have some constructive results that you have called random processes and natural selection, as well as survival of the fittest. Since both creationism and evolutionism, or evolution, are faith-based models of how the universe Earth came about, because neither is sufficiently observable in how it came about, to be there as each species evolved or did not evolve successfully, nor repeatable, nor falsifiable in order to arrive at sufficient scientific objective data, and since there is evidently a quality of design prevalent everywhere in the universe that is way beyond the imagination and capacity of mankind so far, then there remains the plausibility of an intelligent designer who created the universe. So to prove that creationists can't prove evolution sufficient because none of us are old enough to go back and log in what we observe, that doesn't mean intelligent designer is ruled out. That's negative thinking. You can't prove something over here on the positive side because we can't prove something over in the negative. We just say, well, we can't disprove evolution sufficient to your desires, although I think we can. But if that's the case that we can't prove it, that doesn't mean that creationism doesn't exist either. It's a plausible argument. In the Kreb cycle problem, the intermediary stages were also useful, but for different purposes, and therefore its complete design was a very clear case of opportunism. The Kreb cycle was built through the process that Jacob, 1977, called evolution by molecular tinkering, stating that evolution does not produce novelties from scratch. It works on what already exists. The most novel result of our analysis is seeing how, with minimal new material, the evolution created the most important pathway of metabolism, achieving the best chemically possible design. In this case, the chemical engineer who was looking for the best design of the process could not have found a better design than a cycle which works in living cells. Since this paper appeared, a study based on genomic DNA sequences has confirmed the validity of this approach. By contrast, how would intelligent design have approached the Krebs cycle? Using Dembski's calculations as our guide, we would first determine the amino acid sequences of each of the proteins of the cycle, and then calculate the probability of their spontaneous assembly. When this is done, an origination probability of less than 10 to the 40/100th is result. Therefore, the result of applying design as a predictive science would have told both groups of researchers that their ultimately successful studies would have been fruitless, since the probability of spontaneous assembly falls below the universal probability bound, because it's older than the universe. This guy goes on to say, we already know, however, the reason that such calculations fail. They carry a built-in assumption that the component parts of a complex biochemical system have no possible functions beyond the completely assembled system itself. As we have seen, this assumption is false. But that's apples and oranges again. The Kreb cycle researchers knew better, of course, and were able to produce two important studies describing how a real complex biochemical system might have evolved. The very thing that design theorists once claimed did not exist in the scientific literature. Yeah, that's theory, not even theory, guesses. The failure of design. It is no secret that concepts like irreducible complexity and intelligent design have failed to take the scientific community by storm. Design has not prompted the new research studies, new breakthroughs, or novel insights on so much as a single scientific question. Design advocates acknowledge this from time to time, but they claim that this is because the scientific deck is stacked against them. Yeah, they don't. The way this guy is reasoning, it is. The Darwinist establishment, they say, prevents them from getting a foot in the laboratory door. I would suggest that the real reason for the cold shoulder given design by the scientific community, particularly by life science researchers, is because time and time again its prime principle scientific claims have turned out to be wrong. Science is a pragmatic activity, and if your hypothesis doesn't work, it's quickly discarded. The claim of irreducible complexity for the bacterial flagellum is an obvious example of this, but there are many others. He didn't refute it. Science just didn't want to hear it. They don't want to even assume the plausibility of an intelligent designer. Consider, for example, the intricate cascade of proteins involved in the clotting of vertebrate blood. This has been cited as one of the principal examples of the long kind of complexity that evolution cannot generate. Despite the elegant works of Russell Doolittle, to the contrary, a number of proteins are involved in this complex pathway as described by Behe. Behe says, when an animal is cut, a protein called Hageman factor sticks to the surface of cells near the wound. Bound Hageman factor is then cleaved by a protein called HMK to yield activated Hageman factor. Immediately, the activated Hageman factor converts another protein called prevalent to its active form, kallikrein. Okay. How important are each of these proteins? In line with the dogma of irreducible complexity, Behe argues that each and every component must be in place before the system will work, and he's perfectly clear on this point. None of the cascade proteins are used for anything except controlling the formation of a clot. Yet in the absence of any of the components, blood does not clot, and the system fails, and the animal dies. As we have seen, the chain that every one of the components must present for clotting the work is central to the evidence for design. One of those components, as these quotations indicate, is factor 12, which indicates the cascade. Once again, however, a nasty little fact gets in the way of intelligent design theory. Dolphins lack factor 12, and yet their blood clots perfectly well. How can this be if the clotting cascade is indeed irreducibly complex? In the human, not in the dolphin. See, there you go. Apples and orange. It cannot, of course, and therefore the claim of irreducible complexity is wrong for this system, of course, and therefore the claim of irreducible complexity is wrong for this system as well. I would suggest, therefore, you see his reasoning? Apples and orange. That the real reason for the rejection of design by the scientific community is remarkably simple. The claims of the intelligent design movement are contradicted time and time again by the scientific evidence. That's what he calls scientific evidence. And I answer, in this case, it is not contradicted, apples and oranges. Human being is not the same as a dolphin. Have you tried to find a human being that does not have factor 12 in his blood clotting system to see if it operates? Evidently not. Don't dolphins have a different environment to live in that might not need factor 12? Yes. Have you refuted an intelligent designer because factor 12 is redundant? No, for you may discover that factor 12 is essential for human climbing, but not for dolphin climbing. Again, it's the Ford versus the Toyota. Toyota doesn't have something, the Ford doesn't have something that the Toyota has. Well, that means it's not necessary in the Toyota. Take it out. The Toyota won't work. Just like humans without factor 12 will bleed to death. So an intelligent designer is nevertheless not refuted because there is not proved out that there is no irreducible complexity in the universe at all. There is no evidence that one might be required. It's all about evidence, proof. So we have the flagellum unspun. In any discussion of the question of intelligent design, it is absolutely essential to determine what is meant by the term itself. If, for example, the advocates of design wish to suggest that the intricacies of nature, life, and the universe reveal a world of meaning and purpose consistent with an overarching, possibly divine intelligence, then their point is philosophical, not scientific. Here's my point. And so is yours. Philosophical because yours is not based on scientific facts. In this whole article, he never once showed a proof of a scientific evidence of where the 12 factor in the blood clotting system is not there, and yet the human was able to go on and survive. So yours is philosophical because yours is not based on scientific facts either, because there has been not any opportunity for observing one species evolving into another in a reasonable time frame that does not exceed the age of the universe, nor an opportunity for repeating and falsifying. Furthermore, information that may contribute toward corroborating one's view, does not refute the other. One view does not refute the other, which view might also be corroborated by the same evidence. Yes, he said, well, this shows this, but this also does not negate designer. There's a philosophical point anyway, a point of view, incidentally, that I share along with many scientists, as H. Allen Orr pointed out in a recent review. Go back up. Plenty of scientists have, after all, been attracted to the notion that natural laws reflect in some way that successfully, necessarily poorly articulated and intelligence or aesthetic sensibility. This is the religion of Einstein, who spoke of the grandeur of reason incarnate in existence, and of the scientist's religious feeling that takes the form of rapturous amazement at the harmony of natural law. This, however, is not what is meant by intelligent design in the parlance of the new anti-evolutionists. Their views demand not a universe in which the beauty and harmony of natural laws have brought a world of vibrant and fruitful life into existence, but rather a universe in which the emergence and evolution of life is made expressly impossible by the very same rules. Their view requires that the source of each and every novelty of life was the direct and active involvement of an outside designer whose work violated the very laws of nature he had fashioned. The world of intelligent designs is not the bright and innovative world of life that we have come to know through science. Wow. Rather, it is a brittle and unchanging landscape, frozen in form and unable to adapt except at the whims of its designer. Well, the creationist worldview is far more beautiful and will be even more so when the Creator comes to fix everything and brings us back to the world of the Garden of Eden before the fall, including man. No more natural disasters and cruelties to fellow man by man, a perfect climate, no death, only eternal life. Do you think that you'd rather have that? Or don't you read the Bible logically in accordance with the normative rules of language, context, and logic to determine what it really says and not what someone tells you it says? Certainly the issue, the guy goes on, and purpose in nature is a philosophical one that scientists can and should discuss with great vigor. Yeah, unless the Third World War comes, the Armageddon comes, right? That's wonderful. Of course, you supported my very point. Both evolutionist and creationist statements about the design and purpose of the universe and nature must of necessity be philosophical because there is no means by which true scientific evidence can be arrived at, because such evidence is neither wholly observable, nor wholly repeatable, nor wholly falsifiable. They don't want to admit that. Oh, we're scientific. However, the notion of the hearts of today intelligent design movement is that the direct intervention of an outside designer can be demonstrated by the very existence of complex biochemical systems. Yes, they can. You haven't bothered to say without that system in the bacteria, it would still survive. You haven't shown that. If a complex biochemical or